All right, hey, we're back for the last episode. Possibly, we might have a surprise coming in the 1 o'clock hour. We never know. And so I am Norm. We're at Clubhouse Chatter. Along with me is Brian Erickson here on studio doing the technology things. A producer. We got Joe up here, Piazza. We'll see Joe here in a little bit. And our second guest of the day is the one and only Frank Peters, former manager of the Portland Mavericks, and also he invented money, nickel ball. And so we were gambling with Frank, okay, nickels, pennies. So don't be coming after us. It was just all fun. And but nickel ball, we'll ask you about that here in a little bit. And Frank, how you doing, man? You're looking good.
I feel good.
Yeah?
Yeah, one day at a time.
That's all you can do.
Yep, I'm trying to figure out these damn parking meters.
That's right.
I needed assistance from Joe to get there. It's actually pretty simple once you get her.
It is. It is. And so if for those of you who haven't seen The Battered Bastards of Baseball, you have to go Netflix, The Battered Bastards of Baseball. And Frank Peters was one of the team managers, 73, 74, 74, 75?
Right. Uh-huh.
And man, I was telling somebody we were talking about it the other day. We were talking about independent baseball and not having an affiliation, and you guys went through that. And
Well,
we
pioneered it, actually.
You guys stuck it to the man.
Revenge is what was our motto.
But,
revenge with vengeance.
But in the end, these other organizational teams, they bring down some of their talent just so they could beat you.
Yeah, well, the end result of this whole thing is that today, in today's world, there's a independent league of 7 teams. I think it's called the Northern League, and they're very successful. They used the model that Bing pioneered, and they found a niche in the Midwest, and they're doing really well. And as Bing anticipated, if you're a big league ball player and get released, that's where you go.
Right.
And what a nice legacy we have. And of course, Netflix has declared that Battered Bastards of Baseball is one of their 5 best documentaries ever, and it has a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes and will be a sports classic. So all of my best deeds in the past have been redeemed, and my legacy has been revamped or renamed. Right. So now I'm
you're a star again.
Like a virgin.
You're a star again. I mean, and before that, you were at Oregon State, and then you also played in the Orioles organization, and you got kind of hung up in the minor leagues because of a gentleman by the name of Brooks Robinson.
I went to Oregon State on a basketball scholarship.
Right.
And we played in the Final Four, and I played with Terry Baker and Jim Jarvis and Mel Counts and Steve Pauly, and they were all from Oregon. And the only basketball player on the team was Mel Counts because everybody else played another sport.
Right.
Terry played football, won the Heisman Trophy.
Jarvis played baseball.
I played baseball. Pauly played track. And today I see everybody is specializing, and I'm going, wow, they're missing the real beauty of it all. And so when I signed to play pro ball, it wasn't my first rodeo.
Right.
And I looked at the roster and I go, well, let's see, Brooks Robinson, huh? Well, that doesn't sound like a big league name, so I'll sign with the Orioles. And it turned out he was still making the All-Star team 16 years after I'd been out of ball.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
But in those days they owned you. You had no free agency.
Right.
When you signed with the ball team, your choice was to play with that team, or go home, get a lunch bucket, and go to work in the cornflakes factory. And Oregon didn't have a cornflakes factory, so
you stuck with the pro ball.
Stuck with the pro ball.
And so let me ask you this: so we're talking about Bing Russell, and Bing Russell is the father of Kurt Russell, and Bing quite possibly could be one of the most underrated baseball guys there ever was. I mean, not only was he an actor, played the sheriff on Gunsmoke for 20 years or something like
Yeah,
that
13 years.
for a long time.
Never made an arrest.
and, and but yet here was a complicated baseball man who would jot things down, and he would have videos. Kurt Russell in with videos as we're watching Joe Piazza mac down on the front counter lady here.
On the babe.
And so, but Bing was an underrated baseball man, was he not?
The interesting thing is that the baseball was perceptive enough to honor him as Executive of the Year, which surprised me because I thought that they would, kind of shun him. But they honored him with that. And when the Mavericks ended, his whole goal was to take the Mavericks and eventually make big league baseball in Portland, Oregon.
Right.
And two things happened that he said stopped it. Take a guess on what they were.
Well, one, didn't somebody buy the rights out from Portland underneath him?
No, because he could come in with the big league rights. See?
Okay.
His number one was Mount St. Helens blew up.
Okay.
And caused a real distraction on the whole Northwest, where he was
1980, yeah,
where he was going to get his money in the East. And his number one guy that he made a connection with was a guy named Elvis Presley. So Mount St. Helens blew up, and Elvis Presley died, and those were two things that Bing thought that he would have had it if it hadn't been for that.
Bing was connected to Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And you know that Kurt played Elvis on a TV special that won an Emmy.
Oh, wow.
And Bing played, I think his name was Preston. What was Elvis' dad? Preston?
Something like that, yeah.
Bing played the father.
Oh, wow.
And so
I'll have to hunt that down. Check it out.
Check it. It's really good. And I'll tell you what, Kurt Russell is Elvis up there. Yeah.
Kurt, if you're listening, hey, I know that you're probably not, but we would love to have you come on and talk about those old Portland Maverick Day and talk about, we all know about Kurt Russell, the actor. What we don't know a lot about is Kurt Russell, the baseball player, and he was a pretty damn good baseball player.
Mm-hmm. And he's like one of us. He's one of the guys. I went down to Hollywood and hung out with him for 6 months to see if I wanted to be an actor. And he had a series at the time called The New Land that didn't last particularly long. But interestingly enough, the $6 Million Man the set was there, and all these sets he'd go on. And they didn't. If they don't know who you are, they think that you might be somebody, right? So as long as I kept my mouth shut, I was somebody. And what I found out was that he was living with a guy named Mike McGreevy, who was also had come up through Walt Disney. And what they do is they'd spend all day trying to get another part. And I'm thinking to myself, here are two of the most successful actors at that time, and what are they doing? They're looking for a job.
Right.
So I tucked my little tail between my legs and came back to Portland in the bar business.
And that's when you had the Grand Cafe.
No. I had Peter's Inn, I had Peter's Habit, and then I opened a bar up in Seattle called Peter's Inn. I had Judy and I had 20 hot dog carts on the streets at that time. We were the first ones in the cart business. They were called Judy's, and we had 20 hot dog carts out there, and they were like the sailing ships going out in the morning. So I had a lot going on in terms of, and then I ran for governor, and Picatilla was the governor at the time, and there was no opposition to Vic. Everybody loved him. He was like a Boy Scout leader. How could you say anything bad about Vic?
So what made you decide that you want to run against Vic?
Well, the idea was that I would. Kulinkowski ran also. There were two people. And politics, as we watch currently with Trump, everything is timing. And I thought that I would start with the governor, and because as governor, you're in charge of those 6 F-4 Phantom jets out there in the Oregon National Guard.
Right.
And I thought I could buzz the Japanese who were netting all of our salmon at the time, solve our salmon problem. So you can see why I didn't win.
So now, when did you have the Grand Cafe? From what years?
From 1990 until 2017. No, 2015. So I had a 25-year run.
So I don't know if you remember a friend of mine. His name was Joe Conley, and he worked on your appliances.
Yeah,
He was out of McMinnville, and he was a big gentleman who would come in, and we would go around to these different cafes and places, and you know, like if you needed something done to your
Right.
oven. And Joe, I remember coming in with Joe a couple different times
did
to
you?
the Grand Cafe and helping him work with stuff. But he'd always tell me about the owner of this.
Was I there?
You never were there. I never
good.
did meet you there. But we would have lunch and eat a burger. And, you know, I remember him always telling me about Frank Peters, you know, and we'd always look at these basketball pictures of you playing with East Bank Saloon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't tie that in until just like recently. And Joe passed away back in, I believe, 2000. But I remember coming to the cafe and actually helping him do some work.
We had a great run there because we had Andrea's Cha-Cha Club in the basement.
And she's looking pretty good. I met her
Yeah.
down there at the Portland Pickles game.
Right.
Yeah, she looks good.
Those Latinos, you know, they look great forever.
She looks great.
She's a Colombian. She has dual citizenship, United States and Colombia. And then my other partner was Bernhild Nieswand. She is German. And so I had two fiery women as partners. And I'll tell you what, that last 25 years have got me on my toes.
Grand Cafe had a really good run.
Yeah. It was, I mean, about as good as it can get, whatever you can describe. We had a bachelor party, which I will not talk about here, for the Chicago Bulls in the Cha-Cha Club with the Lick sisters that still they talk about in Chicago. And they say it's pretty wild in Chicago.
Yeah. So, Battered Bastards of Baseball and Netflix.
And the Chicago Bulls lost by 15 points the next day.
Oh, geez. Did Netflix do it right?
Netflix is with the Battered Bastards.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Did
yeah.
they do it right?
Yeah. They so that'll be around forever, a sports classic.
And it really is. I you know, I can't tell you how many times I've watched it. I've probably at least watched it at least 25, 30 times now.
Yeah.
And I continue to do it.
And when I watched it again, I go, wow, man, Kurt Russell is so good in that presentation that he just lights up the screen and just gives it total credibility. Now, the documentary rights have been purchased by a guy named Justin Lin, who is a billionaire who did Fast and Furious and a bunch of movies. And so eventually they'll do a regular feature movie about Battered Bastards. And Kurt will play the father.
You play Bing.
And Todd Fields, who was the Bat Boy, will direct it and write the script. Now, Todd has indicated he wants to do a coming-of-age movie through the eyes of a 13-year-old Bat Boy.
A.K.A. Todd Fields.
Yeah. R-rated.
You know, and it was probably R-rated for Todd. I mean, I can only imagine. You know, I mean, I've met a handful of you guys, and every single one of you guys are characters.
And most guys that came through there did very well in life because it took a certain mental attitude to make it into the Maverick.
The family.
Yeah, and even if you weren't there very long, I mean, like Rob Nelson, who did Big League Chew, read about it in South Africa.
Right.
And came away, and I had to release him. I mean, you look at my job as manager. Okay, my job as manager is one thing, but I had to tell 300 guys that they couldn't play the game anymore that really cared about what they're doing. And I just can't say, hey, you're out of there. I have to give them some kind of a reason and some kind of a value of what they've done.
Well, that's where your political background comes in.
That's where kicking out drunks in a bar comes in.
That's true. That is true too. You know, and I mean, Larry Colton was one of those. He didn't pitch for very long with
No.
the Mavericks.
And
You know?
when Colton is a great story because we were having a tryout. We were having a kind of a little workout at Delta Park for about 10 or 15 ball players before the season, and this guy looked like a bum shows up in a Greek fisherman's hat with a long beard and holy tennis shoes.
Charles Manson's brother.
Yeah, asked if he could pitch batting practice, and I go, well, can you even throw the ball? He goes, oh yeah. That's okay, and he's pitching pretty good. And he goes, hey coach, like a nerd, because you don't call in professional ball, you don't call anybody a coach, you call him skip or manager.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So what he's doing is he's in some kind of disguise. He gives us his name, like his name is Fu Manchu or something.
Right.
And so he says, "Can I throw a little harder?" I go, "Yeah." And nobody can hit him. And so I go up there. I said, "I got to see what this guy looks like." So I step up there, and he throws, and I go, and I recognize the release point because I faced him in AAA when he played for the Eugene Emeralds. Didn't recognize the face or the body or the smell, but I knew that release point. And I go, "Hold it, who are you?" So we signed him, and he did pretty well in the beginning. But what happens as a pitcher is that if you haven't come through and built your arm up, you lose your zip.
Right.
After you pitched a little bit, and they lit him up pretty good, but he could hit. So I put him in there as a hitter. He hits a triple, and the guy, I think, asked him to step off the base so he can dust it off, but he stepped off the base, and the guy tagged him out. And that was the end of his career.
So,
So he got hoodwinked by a rookie.
That's funny. And I've told you this a couple of different times that as a baseball fan, and having family in the Portland area, I feel like I was screwed that I never got to witness a Portland Mavericks game. Now I've been to Portland Beaver games in the 70s, but I never got to go to a Portland Mavericks game, and so I feel like I got hosed. And I mean, what a great story. I mean, you gotta number one, you got Bing Russell. You got the Hollywood man coming out, getting involved with baseball, brings, Portland baseball to the big city, Portland, Oregon, and people are kind of doubting this guy.
Well, what you had was you had two newspapers at the time, so you had a reality show. And I want to read just a little excerpt from one of the newspapers. It goes, the Mavericks split, but remain in first. Mavs go 1 for 2. Piscotti goes 0 for a career. And it opens, it goes, Joe Piscotti went 0 for a career. Now, if potatoes hold up, he'll probably be an attorney. But what he does is he shows up and convinces me to give him a chance. So I says, all right, you're going to have it says, when Piscotti showed up in Portland, he had 50 cents in his pocket and was sleeping in his car. Peters staked him to a meal at one of my bars. You got to see how much meatloaf he ate. And had him peel some potatoes. So I gave him a 2-game at-bat, 0 for 6. He went 0 for 6, so we released him. So he drives all the way back to New York, and probably an attorney probably putting people in jail now.
Right.
But those are the kind of stories that we had every day. So it was like a reality show. And we had 2 newspapers. I'm going to give you that.
And this was written by Ken Wheeler, who's still around.
No, he just died recently.
Oh, did he pass away finally? Yeah. Finally? He's been around forever.
Yeah, he was on in the documentary.
Okay.
He was a little guy in the documentary.
What cracks me up is the way they write, the way they used to write. I mean, you don't see like Frank the Flake Peters.
Right, and you don't see a human interest story that starts here and then finishes up where Reggie Thomas steals 2 bases
in each game, right?
But what they don't know is that 2 of the bases that he stole, he actually hit a double, stopped at first, so he could steal second because he got a free pizza. So he never got any extra base hits.
That is funny.
I'm going to give you that. Notice what I'm hitting there.
346.
Right.
Holy cow.
And the thing as manager, what's important that I do is not stay in the lineup.
Right.
because then I'm taking opportunity and chances for
Somebody else.
right. And the secret to managing the Mavericks was if there's 24 ball players, keep the 12 that absolutely dislike you away from the 12 that are undecided. And that's why I had a bodyguard.
So, Reggie Thomas.
Some people call them coaches. I call them
You
bodyguards.
call him Bobby. Reggie Thomas. They ever find him? They ever know? I mean, we really still don't know where he's at.
They think he was assassinated. According to June Germany, he was assassinated.
And you brought that up a couple different times.
Yeah, because when a couple years after the Mavericks, Terry Jones asked me to testify on behalf of his brother because Reggie Thomas was a paid informant for the FBI. And I wound up in federal court in Seattle looking at a judge way up high in a big robe about as scary a situation as you could ever be in and not be guilty.
He pulled a gun on you one time, didn't he?
Well, yeah, but that doesn't count. You know, he comes up to me and he says, Frank, I'm going to shoot you. And Bing was standing there and he goes, Reggie, you're not going to shoot Frank. He says, if you're going to shoot anybody, you shoot me first. I want top billing. And you spell Russell with 2 L's.
What kind?
So Reggie laughed. I put him back in the lineup.
What kind of man was Bing?
Bing was you walk in the room, you'd know he was there. You are a sly dog. Anyway, Bing had a great voice.
Right.
And he'd walk in the room and he would say, howdy, gents. And he would say it in such a way that you would take notice. He did, we talked him into doing a Robert Service poem, The Cremation of Sam McGee, okay? And it was just magical with his voice. Yeah, he was
typical, definitely a Hollywood man.
Yeah. Well, he was kind of a cowboy. I mean, he was very patriotic.
Right.
He believed in family and the magic of the moment. For instance, he thought that every movie or everything had his idea of a great moment in baseball is bases loaded, 3-2 the count, and the pitch is on the way. And it doesn't matter what happens because there's drama is all about.
Right.
And he always pointed out the chimney sweep scene in Mary Poppins. He said everything built up to that and everything came up to that. And so, because I asked him one time, I said, you know, you have all these people around you. How come you have such a variety? And he says, you know, you never know where the magic,
where the magic lies.
Yeah, the magic inspiration is going to come from. So he had a huge variety. Teddy Roosevelt, I saw an old movie of his that was really good. Wind in the Lion. There's Teddy at the President of the United States. And got an Indian and a Chinese guy. And got them all at the table. And they're all part of his group or his family.
What, if you had to take away one moment, the shining moment of your time with the Mavericks, what would it be?
The shining moment. I think the key moment was when I was going to, I wanted to put Steve Collette on, who has passed away and was the manager at the end. But you can only have so many veteran players. And I would have to get rid of Reggie. And I asked Bing, I says, this is what I want to do. And Bing says, Frank, he says, I need to win the pennant. No, he says, can you win the pennant with Steve Collette? And I says, I think so. I can't guarantee it. Can you draw people with Steve Collette? I says, I don't think he'll make that much difference. He says, I need to win the pennant and draw people. I says, well, then you need Reggie Thomas because you need to draw people, and it's my job to win the pennant. So the magic moment to me was the clarity of knowing what he wanted as the owner of the Mavericks and what the Mavericks needed.
Right.
And from that point on, my job was easy. I just once in a while do something a little unusual. Like the time I took all the players out of uniform and put 9 players on the diamond, and each player played a new position in each inning. So all 9 players played all 9 positions, and we beat Walla Walla 5-3. Never been done in the history of baseball, and I think the scorekeeper had to use like 10 pages.
Oh wow, wow. Could Reggie Thomas, was Reggie Thomas, could he have been a Major League Baseball player?
Yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, he had the speed. I know that.
There were less teams then, and he was probably there was more criticism of free spirits in those days.
Yeah. He was a troubled guy, definitely.
So Kurt Bevacqua is on. He wants you to talk about your different batting stances.
Who does?
Kurt Bevacqua.
Hey, Kurt, former player with the Pirates and among other teams.
Kurt Bevacqua.
Kurt Bevacqua, yes.
Kurt Bevacqua was gorgeous.
He is gorgeous, isn't he?
He's watching the show.
He's a friend of mine on Facebook, and so yeah.
I mean, you'd walk into the shower and Kurt Bevacqua would be in there, and you'd go, "Boy, now there's a guy that's going to make it in the big leagues."
Kurt, we would love to have you come on Clubhouse Chatter sometime. So please message me sometime. We'd love to talk about about your playing career. So
The beauty of Kurt Bevacqua was he made the game fun, and he was fun. And wherever he went, he lit up the room.
Kurt Bevacqua is one of those guys who takes me back to my childhood. And it always goes back to the 1980 top set.
Yep.
With the little hats on the corner, and he was playing with the Pirates, and guys like Bevacqua and Andre Dawson and those guys, they take me back to those days, back when I was 12, 13 years old.
Let me tell you about Doc Ellis, the guy that pitched the no-hitter on LSD. He didn't have to be on LSD. He had electric stuff.
That's what I hear. He had amazing stuff.
And of course, Wayne Twitchell, same thing. They both threw from about the same release point, and they both had electric stuff.
Doc, and there's a great video on YouTube. I can't remember. It's kind of in cartoon form, and it talks about Doc Ellis in his no hitter, which was amazing. When you hear the story. Of course, Major League Baseball doesn't have any footage of that game out, nor will, I don't know if they ever will. But like I said, high on LSD, goes out, throws a no hitter. He was high as a Georgia pine, and he said he couldn't make out hitters, because he could make out if they were left or right-handed, but that was it.
Yeah.
And so Bevacqua wants to know something about locking yourself in the dugout.
No, that's hitting set.
Oh.
No. Let's hear about when you locked yourself in the dugout.
Who wants to know that?
I want to know that.
We want to know about locking yourself in the dugout.
Well, that was when Reggie was going to shoot me.
Oh.
I thought you stole first base.
And so what I did is I went and we'd gotten in a fight underneath the thing the day before, and Snake Plissken broke it up. You know who Snake Plissken was?
No clue.
Kurt Russell in Escape from New York.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So he broke up the fight, and I figured Reggie picked up a shovel, so I figured there was no future in that. So the next day I took him out of the lineup. That's when he was going to shoot me. Well, when he came to shoot me, I reconsidered and put him back in the lineup. So I locked myself in the bathroom. Bing told me to lock myself, but I was more than willing to lock myself in the bathroom and slid the lineup out underneath the
crack of the door there.
And then Ox Volkowski, the guy that was guarding the door of the bathroom at the time, put the lineup in, put him in, and then all was forgiven, and we were a happy family.
I want to know about Joe Garza. And so I know Joe is driving a truck, I believe, down in California, I believe.
Yeah,
At least that's
they've
what
got
I've
a
been told.
cement company or something.
And so Joe was one of those former players that you had talked about, but he stuck around. he stuck around because he was kind of, in a way, the mascot of the team.
Exactly. He became a fan. Fans liked him, and he kind of created an act, and that went along with what Bing wanted, showmanship
Right.
and to win. And the biggest problem as manager is how do you play everybody to keep them happy and in the
Right.
game? And so if you can find somebody like Joe Garza that can fill in if you need him, but happy to have another role, even though it's running around the ballpark
With a broom on fire.
with a broom on fire, you accept that as an asset. And so one of the things that, because nobody wants to come to Portland knowing that this is your last go around and sit on the bench.
Right.
So I tried to get everybody in the game as much as possible.
So we had Kurt Bavakwa chatting with us a little bit here, and so what do you remember about Kurt? I remember Kurt being like kind of one of those super utility guys.
Yes, he was. Him and I played on the Portland Beavers at the same time.
Okay.
That's where our background is. And one of the interesting things is our catcher. We didn't have a catcher for the game that night, so Kurt and I were going to, I'm going to say, not try out, but audition in batting practice to see who was going to catch that night, because we both, rather than just locking into one position, we like the variety of doing things.
Right.
And so the first pitch, the guy fouled it off and hit Kurt on the foot. He wanted no part of it. So I won the tryout without having to do anything. So what I know about Kurt was that there wasn't anything that he couldn't do or wouldn't be willing to try.
And Kurt went on to a very successful major league career for a number of years. I think he played, at least 15 years, if not more.
Was that it? Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, he was around for a long time.
Yeah, and the neat thing is he got everything out of what he had.
Yes.
And he did it with his attitude is everything. He had a great attitude. He was kind of he was watching his own movie, but he had a great attitude.
And you had a different stance for
I was watching a different movie.
You were watching a different movie?
I was still looking for the ultimate stance. What I had was I had a base hit stance with long ball potential, and then I had a long ball stance with base hit potential, and then I had the ultimate stance, and it had no potential.
That's my stance, is with the no potential. Well, once again, Mr. Frank Peters with us here, former Portland Maverick and Baltimore Oriole, and
Oregon State Beaver.
And Oregon State Beaver.
We won a Northern Division in baseball the year I played.
Who was the big dog in the? Well, it was
USC.
a Pac-8 back then. It was back in USC's run, wasn't it?
Yeah, we got beat 2 out of 3. And the neat thing was I would come off the basketball court, have 1 day rest, and then got to face the 95-mile-an-hour fastball. And I always wondered why I was having a little trouble catching up to it.
Right. Not having trouble with the curve, but you're having problems with that fastball.
Oh, man. It was like, ooh.
So what are you doing these days? I know you're retired, and do you got anything going on? I mean, you got nickleball. We got nickleball going on, and
Tuesday night at 7:00 at Guardian Games, we're doing a big demonstration of nickleball. So if you have a chance, stop by. We'll talk baseball, and we've got a few nickleball to give away.
Guardian Games is located at 345 Southeast Taylor
corner
Avenue here in Portland.
Yeah, right in the corner of MLK and Taylor.
And so you got demonstration going on. We kind of had a demonstration going on with Brian, Joe, and I. And, Joe walks in. What are you guys doing? We're gambling with Frank Peters.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that was pretty exciting. I enjoyed that.
Well, we've come a long way on it. My buddy Ed Fredenberg is really the genius behind it. And he started out trying to beat the lottery.
Good luck.
Yeah, right. So we wound up with a gambling game of nickleball. So we spent 2 years on it, and he's really quite talented. I'm he's all go, and I'm kind of.
So here's what I found out about it. So it looks confusing, and when you first start playing, I mean, you got different lines to follow and stuff. But I think once we play it enough and get used to it, then it's not a little problem. But you got little places for side bets and stuff, and you got the pot, the Mavericks ball, and
it's a way you can gamble with your wife. Right?
Yeah.
And because the odds are even for everybody. It's a game you can sit around and drink beer and gamble.
See, that's what I see. Yeah, absolutely.
And play nickels. And so we've had some fun getting there. Our goal was to bring joy to the world, make a few bucks, and relevancy to each.
How do you buy it?
How do you buy it?
Oh, you buy it at Guardian Games. It's on sale there. I think they sell it for $10. It's worth about 50, but
maybe 100.
Yeah.
But
So
only $10,
Guardian
huh?
Games has it, and if you come by Tuesday, I'll give you a demo, sign it, tell you how the world works. And other than that, I'm doing pickleball and looking for my future ex-wife.
A couple more things before we let you go. Number one is, man, there was a lot that came out of the Portland Mavericks. I mean, we're talking, Todd Fields, Academy Award winning director.
Yep.
We're talking Rob Nelson with Big League Chew, which is still big today.
Sold almost $1 billion.
In fact, I just gave my nephews a couple of packages of them the other day, and that I've had for a while, and they're like, "What's this?" And so I got to tell the story, and I told them a little bit about Rob and meeting Rob and stuff. And,
Right. And on the back it says Portland Mavericks.
Absolutely,
Really cool.
and then and then what else? I mean, what else do we have come out? So
Larry Colton.
Larry Colton. I'll tell you, we had Larry Colton on the show 4 or 5 months ago, and he is, I mean, a writer, published writer, brilliant.
Yeah, he's
brilliant guy.
Got a sense of humor.
Oh, he's funnier than heck.
Yeah.
He's
cool.
Bill Walton, one of Bill Walton's friends.
Yeah.
Which is a win-win for me.
Yeah.
And so, but there was a ton that came out of that. I mean, Bing Russell, Kurt Russell, and
a lot more. I mean, even you talked about Joe Garza is very successful. One of our bat boys Miles Brandon has a big Volkswagen dealership down in Capistrano. Cliff Allen is very successful here in town. Sold sporting goods to all the schools and stuff, and owns real estate. Swanee owned Swanee's. I mean, you could spend your life talking about Swanee.
His glove belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
left-handed catcher.
Hello, and he belongs in the Hall of Shame, and the glove belongs in the Hall of Fame. And I think Rob Nelson's Big League Chew is going into the Baseball Hall of Fame this month.
It belongs there.
Yeah,
I mean, it's been around since I was a kid.
Yeah, he was pitching, and he's out there getting knocked around a little bit, and go out to the mound to find out. I says, Swanee, I says, what's he got? How's he doing? Has he got anything? He says, I don't know. I haven't caught anything yet. Wait till I catch one.
So we'll end on this. So when the movie comes out, who do you want to play Frank Peters?
Bradley Cooper. At a minimum.
That's a good one.
No?
That's great.
At a minimum.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
guys.
He even looks like me.
He does.
I came in second in a beauty contest the other day.
That's funny.
Everybody else tied for first.
Same beauty contest. I came in third. So, yeah. But I came in third.
So
yeah.
I came in second. You came in third. Perfect.
Joe and I won. So.
I drove you in.
So once again, Mr. Frank Peters. Frank, we love having you on the show, and you've got so many stories to tell, and it's the Portland Mavericks. I mean, it's a historical team.
This is the team that the Way brothers saw when they decided to do the documentary.
Wow.
That's on a good day.
That's on a good day?
Yeah. Those are the guys I had to whip into shape. So I started right away by saying no rules.
And so we're talking about we're talking about people who have gone on, and I mean most of these guys. I mean, God,
sure.
look at them:
Yeah.
Booten and Swanee, Reggie Thomas, Penny Clemo. What's she doing now?
Don't know. She was a back girl, so I didn't. Who knows?
And so wasn't one of the general managers? Isn't she she's like a preacher now,
Yeah.
a reverend?
Right there, she is right there, Connie Moss.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to get a hold of her. I don't know if she'd be willing to come on, but I know she's busy. But
And then there's your personal copy. This is me stealing first base. The umpire says, "You're out of here," and I said, "So is you." So I picked up first base and locked myself in the clubhouse. And they had no more base to play.
The Joe Garza broom sweep, a victory lap with fans and brooms set afire. Jim Boone recalls, it was like an asylum. Everyone seemed crazy.
Yeah. There's our dog. If you notice, in
The
Battered
pictures,
Bastards,
yes,
the dog walks right through there like he's just part
Yes,
of the team.
yep. In Bellingham, Washington, the Portland Mavericks turned the Olympic-sized pool into an Olympic bubble bath with players jumping off the diving board and bicycle races into the pool.
We got kicked out of the hotel, and we finished up the rest of the night in a park with a bonfire.
I remember you told me about that.
And getting ready for the game by drinking a couple of 6-packs of beer. See, when you came to town, you needed to know where the park was, because in case you got kicked out, you needed to go somewhere where you could hang out.
That was a couple of different times you guys were kicked out.
Yeah, we thought we were going to have to commute from here to Bellingham.
Once again.
No, that's your call.
Oh, well, thank you.
Both of you for so far.
Well, once again, Mr. Frank Peters. And Joe, do you got anything to add?
Not for the moment, no.
Okay, thanks.
Brian?
No, we're good. Thanks, Frank.
All
Okay,
right,
thanks,
Frank,
man.
let's do this again sometime soon.
Okay.
All right. Hey, once again, we are sponsored by Baseballism. If you haven't checked out Baseballism up here on Quimby, make sure you guys do it. And also sponsored by a new sponsor, 503 Sports out of Portland. And they're the ones that provided us with the Portland Mavericks hat. We also got Portland Maverick shirts, which are really nice. They're just a little bit small. And so, but 503 Sports, check them out. I just think they put a new couple of football jerseys up, and so check them out.
So
I'm Norm. That is Brian.
I do this kind of
Hey,
stuff.
we might stick around a little bit here.
And,
Might have a 1 o'clock guest. We'll see. And if not, we will catch you later.
Pretty much, yeah.